Hey y'all, it's Kate from the Apothecary and welcome back to my channel. I am here with a weekly reading update. It's been a while. I did not get a chance to update last week because, if you saw my post, my baby brother got married and so we were out of town, but it was an amazing wedding. It was beautiful. Everything went well. Everyone looked great. I posted a picture last week of me and my brother just so you get an idea. It was great, but now I have 2 weeks of reading to update y'all on, so I gotta get into this and I gotta head out to an event I'm supposed to work tonight. Next week, I probably won't have a video up because we have reunions coming into town and I'll be working all weekend and I doubt that I'll be able to get a video recorded and up before I have to be on campus all day and all night Friday and Saturday, but we'll see. So I'm filming this now in anticipation of not getting up next week, so there'll be probably another bi-weekly reading update coming the week after that. So I'm gonna start this one off by a little mini book haul. I got some other books to do a book haul with, but I have not yet filmed that. On the way back from the wedding, John and I stopped at McKay's both in Winston-Salem and Mebane because it was on our way home and it was John's idea. I promise it was his idea. And so I got a big haul there. I put pictures up on social media. I might do a haul video here soon if I get around to it. But in the meantime, I got a new release that I pre-ordered from Barnes & Noble, and y'all, I am so excited for this. I posted my review for this because I got an ARC from Saga Press and I loved it. And that is, of course, The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. This book is beautiful both inside and out. I loved this. This was a 5-star read, definitely one of my favorites so far this year. I will link my review for that in the description below, but look at this book. The blood red pages on the ends, and it is signed, which is one of the biggest reasons why I did it. I love me some signed books and I've become a huge fan of these, what are they called, sprayed edges. I just love how the color always pops on the sprayed edges. So these ones are blood red, just like the Blood of the Dragon, which I will have a review for that book coming soon, but this review is already up. I put that up on release day, which was this past Tuesday, so I will link that down below. Go check that out if you want to know more information about Stephen Graham Jones' brand new book. That is a spoiler-free review, just like all my reviews. So, as I said, we need to talk about what I've been reading the past 2 weeks. Let's get right into it. The books that I have finished or reading that I have finished. First with, of course, an essay. Our Joan Didion essay of the month. More like novella length because it was long. It was its own kind of... What is an essay in novella length? I don't know the terminology for that. Short nonfiction, something along those lines. That is Salvador by Joan Didion. This piece gave readers a look at the country of Salvador in the 1970s and early 80s. And I personally didn't know much going into this essay about Salvador, so I feel like I learned a whole lot reading this. It gave me kind of Vietnam-esque vibes, although I'm not sure if that is typecasting it or anything, but it could also be just because I just recently finished a fiction book on Vietnam War, so I might still have those lingering thoughts going on. But it was a really interesting read. After that, I finished Turncoat by Jim Butcher. This is, again, one of the books in the Dresden Files series. I think this was book 11 or 12, I want to say. I loved this one so much. This is, I think, my favorite in this series so far. And there's so much going on in this book, but it doesn't feel overwhelming like a lot of books do with a lot going on, so I loved it. One DNF for y'all, Serpent and Dove. I just couldn't get into this book. I couldn't get our characters, couldn't get the setting, the atmosphere. I just couldn't get into it, so I decided to DNF it. I think I was about 32% in. I gave it my 100 plus pages test, and I still couldn't get into it, so I decided to DNF it. Next up, we have two Nita Prose books, The Mystery Guest, which is book 2, in the Maids series. I loved this one so much. I loved how we got a mix of the past and the present mixed together, so everything made sense when you were reading it, which I didn't necessarily pick up on right away, but once I did, I thought it was a brilliant move. And then I followed that up by the novella, the Mistletoe Mystery, which I loved, but something felt off about it. Whether it was the amount of space that Nita Prose had in a novella length, which was shorter than a novel, or I don't know, something just felt off in this one for me. I still loved it, but it just felt different than the other two. On our drive to and from Silva for the wedding, we finally finished Monsters and How to Tame Them by Kevin Hart. I loved this one, and I think I liked this one more than the last Kevin Hart book that we listened to, which was I Can't Make This Up. This one, he talks about these different monsters that each one of us has in our head that drives us in everyday life. And the things that I loved about it was he talks about the monsters, but he also says that it's not a bad thing that we have these. Everyone has these in them, and it's not a bad thing, and if you know how to control them. And then he talks about how to control them and how to kind of live with these monsters because they are a part of who we are. And I loved listening to his different examples that he gave and how he overcame those examples. After that, we started and really finished a podcast, Heads Will Roll. This was, I think, based off of an SNL skit by Kate McKinnon. She had her sister in there. A huge cast in there. This was really funny. Really zany and wild and crazy, but so funny. We were laughing the entire time. So now my current reads. These include The Great Bastards by Jonathan French. This one I'm starting to enjoy a lot more now than I was before. This I'm about 43% in, so I'm making good progress on this. Hope to finish within the next week or two. Definitely by the end of the month, I would say. I'm also making my way through Credible Threats by Daniel Meyer. This is a urban fantasy, kind of a young Harry Dresden type book, and I am looking to finish this weekend. I'm about 70% through, so I have just a couple more hours left on my Kindle read, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this one wraps up. I'm really loving Credible Threats, and I will say I'm loving it, but I definitely want more Patrick Swayze in the next book because I love that character. Still going really slowly in The Curse of the Mystery by Janie Wirtz, but this is on purpose because this is a type of prose that you gotta slow down for. You can't speed through it or else you're gonna miss a whole lot of things. And I am loving this slow pace in this book. I've substituted another book in my Reddit fantasy bingo that I had in place for this because I don't want to rush through it. I want to be able to enjoy everything in this. So I replaced that actually with Heads Will Roll. I kind of moved a couple books around, and that brings me to The Winter King by Bernard Cornwell. This is a historical fiction, if you believe in the Arthurian legend retelling, of course, fantasy. I'm listening to the audiobook, and this one I put in place for our 90s prompt, published in the 90s, because this was originally published in the 90s, and I am really enjoying this legend retelling from this point of view. At first, I wasn't quite sure how I felt about it because it was a different point of view than I expected, and it's grittier than I'm used to in the Arthurian legend retellings, but I'm loving it. I can't wait to see where it goes. And then after that, I have Seasons by Mercedes Lackey. Now, this was a recommendation when I was looking for bards, books about bards. Mercedes Lackey's name came up a bunch. And while I put in Heads Will Roll for the bards prompt for our Reddit fantasy bingo board thing, I still wanted to read this because I found this short story collection at McKay's, part of my McKay's book haul, and even though it's kind of like in the middle or at the end of Mercedes Lackey's series, this is a short story collection by a bunch of different authors, all in the same world, and I'm really intrigued by these short stories so far. So what I'll be reading next after all of this is I'll be starting The Fiery Cross by Diana Gabaldon, which is, I think, book 5 or 6, 5, I think it is, in the Outlander series. This one I'll start once I finish my audiobook of The Winter King, and I'll do immersion read of that as I've done with the other books. The Maid's Secret by Nita Prose is an e-arc that I really need to get going on this because this book comes out in early April, so I need to read this, finish it, and review it all by then. So once I finish Credible Threats this weekend, I'll be jumping right into The Maid's Secret then. And the other book that I hope to start by the time I check in with y'all next is Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. Now, I know this week and next I will not be having a lot of reading time, just like I didn't have a lot of reading time this last week. So I'm going light on my TBR for the next week, and some of these may carry over into the week after that, but I'm hoping to get through at least a couple books this weekend so that way I can start on new books next week in the last full week of March already. Let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite reading moment from this past week? What are you looking forward to reading the most in this next week? As always, keep reading, and I love y'all to the moon and back. Bye.